Hi, I just did the nicest yoga class. Of course, it was with Nadia. If you've been here for a while or you've watched the apps, you know how much I love her classes, but also she was on the podcast last week and that was just part one of the conversation. Part two's coming out, so plug, subscribe please. But honestly, like it was just so lovely. I'm very tired. It's actually really late. Oh my God, I hope that the mic is still working for me. Just bumping it then, because I don't know what is going on with this mic, but it just doesn't love me all the time. It's like 10:15. Like, I'm tired, but I don't want to miss another day. And I actually have something I want to throw in your direction. Slide over to your side of the table, as I like to say to my clients. Wouldn't it be so lovely to not have an ego? And now I know the ego can kind of get demonized in modern spirituality, new age spirituality. I don't necessarily mean it in that way. What I mean by that is further to what we were speaking about yesterday, with the idea that affirmations can basically go below me at this point. I just wonder what your experience of life would be if it wasn't ran by your ego. What would your experience of feminism be? What would your experience of religion be? What would your experience of wealth be? What would your experience of your relationship be? I don't know if the ego can necessarily have a positive function in the places that are of the matter of the heart and spirit, right? I think that when we are wanting to activate confidence or self-appreciation, or even something as simple as like joy, the ego can be really helpful in those instances, because I feel like our ego is very much connected to our desires. It's connected to our curiosity. I even think to a certain degree, our ego can be helpful in those ways. But when it comes to like the things that actually fulfill us, like really truly fulfill us, like you would spend your whole life savings in order to go back and experience it again, like falling in love with the love of your life, or giving birth to your child, like all those, meeting your best friend for the first time. If we were to experience those things with ego, would they not be more rich? Well, let me rephrase that. They wouldn't be more rich, right? Like, they would be dampened. And so, how do you not know that the person that you bump into at the grocery store, or the girl that you get into a deep conversation with at the wedding that you go to, or the dinner that you have out and you meet, and there's like a cute guy sitting next to you at the next table, like, if your ego is alive and well, if your ego is front and center in those instances, you either may miss that moment, right? Your ego might tell you, well, I don't want to hit on that person, or I don't want to ask for their number, or I don't want to I don't know, ask what their Instagram handle is because I don't want to seem weird, or I don't want to seem this, or I don't want to seem that, or that's too much, or I'm not the type of person who does that. I don't chase, I attract. That's egoic, right? How many of those experiences are you missing out on? Like, let's not even talk about like the whole butterfly effect of it all. And it gets me thinking about this whole notion of everything happens for a reason. I've had some experiences myself over the last 6 months to a year, but specifically, I had a friend go through something and it just sucks, right? And there was a part of me that almost wanted to say to her, like, you know, everything happens for a reason, everything in divine timing. That's like our new age spiritual way of saying things. And sometimes that does ring true, but I think we have to be careful about where we say like everything happens for a reason, because I don't know, like, does it? Or like, I just feel like it can be a cop out for when your ego is running the show to like self-soothe you or the other person. And I think it can lead to bypassing, obviously. But I think when it comes to the ego, like most of the time, like I wonder how much of that everything happens for a reason just comes from our ego. Everything happens for a reason is a really great way to bypass a lesson. Because when we say everything happens for a reason, we don't actually go that one layer deeper and try to think about what that reason is, or accept that there is a reason, or reflect on it. Most of us, especially when the ego is running, do not want to reflect, do not want to look back and think, oh, I might have been wrong. I may have been inconsiderate there, or I may have been out of pocket, simply out of pocket. And so the ego, I think it serves a function, but I think that there's a middle ground is what I'm really trying to say here. And I think we need to be really more cognizant of figuring out where our ego helps us and where it hinders us. Because if you knew that, and that was so like clear as day, you had a full understanding of what that looked like for you specifically as a human and for the human race in general, I wonder if we would have more compassion for people who are in their ego and their ego is just flaring up at the incorrect time in an unnecessary way. We would have more compassion for ourselves when it does flare up, but also we would be more cognizant of it. And so then we would know and have the self-awareness, or have just the awareness of understanding when it's the time to say no to it and the time to say yes to it. Okay. Rock on.